If you're a boater who's tired of wrestling with a heavy chain, worrying whether the windlass you bought will actually hold when you need it, and wondering if you're throwing money at a gadget that ends up gathering dust, this is the conversation you've been waiting for. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I spent a solid few evenings scrolling through forum threads, watching a couple of YouTube install videos, and reading the fine print on the Lewmar Pro Fish 700 to figure out whether it truly lives up to the hype, or if it's another case of big numbers, small results. Let's break down the real-world experience, the hidden trade-offs, and who should actually consider putting this windlass on their boat. First, a quick reality check. A windlass isn't a piece of luxury electronics. It's a workhorse that you'll rely on every time you drop anchor in a new spot, especially when you're on a 30-foot cruiser or a 38-footer that you use for weekend getaways. The biggest hesitation most buyers have is the fear of a motor that stalls, a chain that slips, or a system that takes forever to retract. On the other hand, the promise of an auto freefall and a 700 pounds pull sounds great on paper, but you need to know if those claims translate into a smooth, dependable operation when you're standing on a rolling deck with a gust of wind pushing the boat sideways. From what I could gather, the Lewmar Pro Fish 700 is built around a 316 stainless steel housing, which is the kind of corrosion-resistant material that boaters look for when they plan to spend time in salt water. The motor is rated to pull up to 700 pounds of chain, which comfortably covers most typical 1/4-inch CHG 4-chain setups for vessels up to 38 feet. The auto freefall feature is essentially a motor-controlled release that lets the anchor drop without you having to manually crank the winch. In practice, that means you can lower an anchor while you're still getting your boat into position, and the system will handle the descent at a controlled speed. One practical strength that stands out is the installation process. Lewmar advertises a quick and easy install, and based on the step-by-step video that I watched, the kit really does come with everything you need: the windlass unit, a 3-point mounting bracket, the motor controller, and the necessary wiring. For a DIY-oriented boater who's comfortable with a basic drill and a few bolts, the whole job can be wrapped up in a weekend. The mounting bracket aligns with the standard transom or deck fittings on most mid-size boats, and the wiring harness plugs right into a 12-volt circuit without demanding any custom splicing. That ease of installation translates into saved labor costs if you were considering hiring a marine electrician. On the flip side, the very same simplicity can become a limitation if you have a more complex electrical system. The motor draws a decent amount of current, especially when you're pulling a heavy anchor in a hard-bottomed spot. If your boat's battery bank is already on the edge, you'll need to either upgrade the battery or be prepared for a noticeable dip in voltage when you engage the windlass. Some owners have reported that the controller's LED indicator can be a little hard to read in bright sunlight, which means you might have to rely on the audible click to know when the motor has stopped. It's not a deal breaker, but it's a nuance that a first-time buyer should be aware of. Now, who exactly should consider the Lewmar Pro Fish 700? If you own a boat in the 25 to 38-foot range, regularly anchor in coastal waters, and you prefer a single-handed operation, this windlass checks the boxes. The auto freefall feature shines when you're anchoring near a reef or in a tight channel. You can let the anchor drop while you steer clear of obstacles, and the motor will keep the chain taut without you having to juggle a manual crank. It also works well for families that use the boat for fishing trips where you might need to drop and retrieve the anchor quickly between casts. Conversely, if you run a larger vessel that requires a heavier chain, say a 45-foot trawler with a 1-inch chain, or if you rely on a dual anchor system, the Pro Fish 700 starts to feel undersized. Its 700 pounds pull rating is generous for most recreational boats, but it doesn't leave much headroom for exceptionally heavy anchors or unusually soft seabeds where the anchor might embed deeply. In that scenario, you'd be better off looking at a higher capacity windlass, even if it means paying a premium. Another practical consideration is the maintenance routine. The stainless steel housing means you won't be battling rust on the exterior, but the internal motor and gears still need periodic lubrication. Lewmar recommends a marine grease application every 6 months, especially if you operate in salt water. The motor itself is sealed, so you won't be dealing with water intrusion as long as you keep the vent openings clear. Compared to some lower-priced windlasses that use plastic housings, the Pro Fish's